This is Tanya Bridge Malone back with another YouTube video. Yeah, I got hair. It's just up in a ponytail today. Anyway, I come to y'all. I don't know exactly what I'm going to talk about, but I know I'll let the Lord guide me what I'm to speak of. Give it time for the Lord to guide me. I got me a coffee here. Man, I had an interview this morning at Sonic. I had one yesterday at 2 o'clock, and then I had another one this morning at 9:30. I don't know. I don't know if I'll get the job or I won't, but I don't worry about it. It is what it is. I got another interview at Long John Silver's tomorrow at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, and then I got another interview on the 22nd of May at Applebee's. No, that's another Long John Silver's interview. Then I got one. I can't remember what day it is. I'm gonna have to go look because I can't keep up with all these interview dates, y'all. I can't keep up with all of them. It's a nice day. It rained some today. It's still cloudy, but I'm tired. I got up at like 8:30 this morning. That interview was at 9:30 this morning, so I had to get up early. I was tired. Went to bed around 12. Phew. I'm tired. Tired. I gotta wake up. I know my video's coming late today. And y'all, the reason why I ain't been in Ross doing reviews and stuff inside the store, and I ain't been in there because I don't have no money to spend. You know what I mean? I'm going to have to wait till I get a job to ever go back in there. I just ain't got no money. Broke is a joke. I'll be glad when I finally do get a job. I really will, because I hate being without money. But it's a beautiful day today. Thank God I woke up. I have interviews coming, so I'm grateful for that. And, you know, just keep going. Hope y'all know the Lord loves you. No matter what you're dealing with, know that there's a light at the end of that tunnel. We got to tell ourselves that every day. We got to keep in a positive mindset, positive vibes, and put all the negative things to the side. Give God all your problems, and He'll give you the lighter load. We got to put our faith in Christ when it comes to things we deal with in this life, because some things we just can't do ourselves. We can't do nothing by ourselves. If we ain't got God, we can't do nothing. Sitting here in a parking lot, speaking to you like I always do. No matter if I have money or not, I'm still bringing y'all content. I'm down to my change I'm using. And it don't consist of no money to be spending on clothes or shoes. It is what it is. Always save your change, because you never know when you'll need it for a rainy day. Any change you get, take it and put it in a cup, put it in something, and keep it put back for a rainy day. I'm telling y'all, and when you all work, man, put some money to the side. Because you just never know what's going to come up to where you have to leave a job due to no fault of your own. You know, and I really hated that I had to leave that last job I had, because I made good money. I made $21.50 an hour, and I had benefits and everything. And I had to leave that behind because of my back. It's sad what we have to do in life, but there's times in life that we just have to do it. And I'm going to have to take a job with lesser pay. About half of what I was making. You know, because working in factories pays more money than restaurant work. Restaurant work is not for the easy at heart either, because it's fast paced. Fast paced and little pay. But I can't lift a lot of heavy stuff, so it is what it is. When I went into that interview this morning, my second interview at Sonic, I told him, I said, listen, I said, you know, they asked me why I wasn't working in factories no more. I said, well, because most people's going to ask you why you left a factory making $20-some an hour to come to work for $10 or $11 an hour. And I told her, I said, well, the reason why is because of my lower back. I said, you know, in the past I've had lower back issues and I had to leave a job. I said, so, you know, I can't work in factories because most of them consist of heavy lifting. And she said, I understand. She said, because I got some back problems too. And I told her, I said, she asked me about one of the other factories that I'd left when I worked at a DuPont shift. Because there was a job I used to work at, and the name of it was Berry Global. And they made plastic for different things. And anyway, she asked me why I only lasted 7 months there. I said, because I deal with mental health. I said, I've had mental health care issues at the time I was working there. I said, I was working the DuPont shift, and my counselor told me I couldn't work that shift because it can cause mania episodes. I said, so that's the reason why I left that job. I said, it was due to my mental health. There was nothing I could do about that. I'm one of these people that I could be drawing disability. I could file for disability and probably get approved. It might take me a while, but I could probably get approved for the simple fact that, you know, for the things that I've had in my past that I've dealt with, you know what I mean? But it is what it is, and I'm still out here trying to work. I'm still out here trying to get a job, because I'm not one of them people that just wants to sit around. You know, that's why I do this YouTube channel, ultimately to talk about the Lord and try to guide the lost to Christ. Because I love doing YouTube. I love making YouTube content. It don't bother me. But I notice a lot of people don't want to do YouTube. That may not be your thing, but I like doing YouTube. I enjoy doing it. I do it for free, because right now I'm not making no money off of it. I do it for the will, what God put into my heart. And I got a message today from one of my known subscribers. Shout out to you, girl. I can't remember what your name is, but you're always commenting in my videos. And I'm so glad that I can bring you content to help you, guide you in your life, you know. Because I do believe, and I'm always praying for you. I mean, you know, and anything I will say is, you know, the Lord is there for you and nobody else is. And we got to learn to have compassion. And this may be what the Lord wants me to speak about, you know, when I'm in amongst the talking to y'all, and sometimes it just comes. And we need to have compassion for people. And what I mean by compassion, that can also intercede with being empathetic and sympathetic to people. We don't want to show people self-pity. You don't want to show people pity, but we want to have a compassionate heart. A compassionate heart, because we see people out here on the roadways, highways and byways. We see people everywhere who are homeless. And if we are able to help them, which I'm not able to do anything unless I take something out of my house, material-wise, that I have to help anybody, because I don't have any money. You know, I'm in one of them situations where I'm thankful I got a roof over my head and a vehicle to drive. You know, because there's a lot of people, you got to be thankful for what you have, because God says that, you know, people are out here who don't have a vehicle, who don't have a roof over their head. And so I thank the Lord that I still have 2 parents alive to help provide a roof over my head. You know what I mean? So I thank my parents for that. You know, because they have helped me. They have helped buy me cigarettes. They have helped keep a roof over my head for the last 2 years. You know, and once upon a time I had my own place. And due to a mania episode, I lost it all. And that was the only mania episode that I've ever had where I went psychosis. And I'm not speaking of it continuously to bring myself down or to wish death over my life. That is something that happened in the past, and I talk about it to help guide people. Because there may be people on my channel that's watching my channel who doesn't know about mania. There may be people who's not educated in mental health. Maybe there's people that watch my channel that don't know anything about bipolar. They've heard of it, but they've never researched it to know for themselves what it is. That's why you find me always talking about people being compassionate in the midst of, if you see somebody with a mental health care problem, don't, because they're depressed, don't make them feel more down about themselves. Because that could be, your words you speak could be the matter of life and death to somebody who has depression, that's battling depression. God says there's people out here battling depression. And, you know, I'll have to say that I speak about a lot of different things on my YouTube platform. And, you know, I wonder to myself, should I upload these videos to other social media platforms? But I don't do it. I always stick with YouTube. And, you know, maybe I need to go outside the realm of that. But at the same time, I'm still speaking just on this platform mostly. I have an Instagram page, but I don't really upload a lot on there. But what God wants me to say is be compassionate for the one who's dealing with a mania episode or a psychosis episode, or be patient and have compassion for those people who's dealing with these type of things, because it's going on as we speak. And it's not God's fault that it's going on, because I tell you, God does not create disease. He created healing. Right? Yep, we know this. And if you don't know this, then you need to start watching my YouTube channel. I bring you a lot of good content. And I really do love the people. I love all God's people. So my platform's not about negativity, like I always say. It's always to be positive. I mean, look at myself. I don't have a job right now, but I'm still speaking the light of God to you all. I'm still coming and bringing you content. You know, I mean, that's got to mean something. So let's like, comment, share, subscribe, put a thumbs up in the video, and comment in the comment section below. And I appreciate all the positive comments on my channel. I thank y'all for all the compliments about my hair, whoever the person is that's leaving them messages. Thank you so much for your positive feedback. I appreciate it. And, you know, but as far as me looking for a relationship right now, I'm not looking for a relationship right now. Because I know God will bring the one I'm meant to be with in due time. And I believe they'll cross my path while I'm working on my purpose, which I am working on my purpose. But I also got to get a job, because I got to have cigarette money. I got to have gas money. I got to have money if I have to, you know, if I have to go to the doctor, I got to have money. Pay for my prescription that I'm on. You know, I need money. And so right now I'm not making any money off this. I'm not saying I won't never, but it's going to take some time. And I'm not worried about whether I make money off of this. I do want to eventually make money, but the money's not the number one cause of why I do what I do. I do what I do whether I get paid or I don't. I don't worry about it. I know God's already blessed my channel. I know He has. But I also have to keep my mind focused on looking for a job too. So what I want to say is, if we see people out and about that's dealing with mental health issues, let's be compassionate towards them. Because I feel like in the job industry, I was speaking to the Lord just out. I mean, people say I talk to myself, but I don't. When I talk to the Lord. He hears everything I say. So, you know, me dealing with bipolar, I talk a lot. You know, and a lot of people, they may not understand that, but God is my number one go-to. Because He's number one in my life. Obviously, if you watch my YouTube platform, my YouTube platform was never about clothes, shoes, and that wasn't the number one reason I'm on here. It's to speak the light of Christ. So I still bring you all content every day. And I go through my own things that I battle. Everybody's got some kind of battles in their life they have to overcome. We're not perfect. But what I'm really mainly speaking about on here is being compassionate towards other people dealing with mental health issues. Especially if they're in depression or mania, or say they're dealing with schizophrenia, whatever it is. Whatever they're dealing with, be compassionate towards those people. Because if we were like that, we wouldn't want somebody not to be compassionate towards us. We don't want to be judgmental and say, oh, well, that person, you know, they ain't. That, you know, here's the thing. God says, I know that there's probably people out here who are depressed and they have a job. I know, because there was one time when I was depressed and I had a job, and it was very stressful. It was hard for me to focus on that job because my mind was going, I mean, there was always negative thoughts plagued the mind, weighed on the mind, stayed on the mind. That's not my situation right now. I'm not going through that no more. I pray the stripes of Jesus over my life, so I'm healed from I'm not going to go through that no more. So I speak light over my life in spite of the things that I've dealt with in my past. And I just want to educate people on mental health, because I have been through it. So who better to discuss it than somebody who's been through a mania episode or who's been through a depression episode? I know. I've been through it in my past. I don't speak that in today's world as I'm going to go through it again. That's not me speaking death over my life, because that's not what I'm talking about. I've had experience with dealing with mental health care issues in the past. I'm healed by the stripes of Jesus. Do I still take medication? Yes, I do. But what I will tell you is that God can help you through storms in your life. If you're going through any kind of episodes, anything, any type of mental illness, I pray the stripes of lights of Jesus over you and you are healed. But you have to accept the healing. But I want to tell you to be more compassionate towards your fellow workers. If you have a job right now, be compassionate towards your fellow workers. And when I was talking to the Lord earlier, when I was on my back porch, and I just speak to him in the spirit, but I was mainly just talking like I'm talking now. And I said, God, I said, it would be so great. I have so many artistic abilities. And I thought to myself, I said, what would really be good in these workplaces and all these workplace facilities, corporations, wherever you're working at, is if they had a class or somebody to come into the facility and really talk about the way you speak to people, your tone of voice, the way you treat others, and forcing somebody to come into wherever you work, in any corporation, in any place you work, that they would incorporate healthy relationships, talk about healthy relationships, and tell people not to speak behind people's backs and talk negative. This is where we live in a world who wants everybody to be negative. The devil was the first narcissist, right? We have narcissists in men and women. And it is in the workplace too. It's not just relationships and family members and friendships. It's in the workplace too. There needs to be, I thought to myself when I talked to the Lord, I thought, God, I don't know if there's such thing as this, but it would be really nice if different places at work enforced positive mindsets, positive vibes, good ways to get along with your coworkers. You know what I mean? And I know that there's people out here who deal with bipolar and different mood disorders. So we can show a little bit of leniency towards those people, but they also need to take accountability and seek their self-help. And they also need to try to be nice to people in there. But a lot of times, I've worked in several different places. And a lot of times when you work with certain people and they know you have a mental illness and you disclose that and they know it, some people will be hateful to you and blame it, and they don't see that they may have an issue with showing compassion. When we're in the workplace, it's hard to show compassion sometimes because we're always rushed. And let's face the facts, a lot of jobs are low on people. There could be several reasons. The last place I worked, which was Serpentine, the last place I worked, Berry Global, whatever you want to call it. But the last place I worked, I noticed a lot of people had mental health issues. Some of them admitted to them, and I was more compassionate and understanding for what they dealt with, because I raised a son who had mental disabilities. And so I knew that I could be understanding of that person, and other people could not push past it. But he could not help it. Granted, he probably wasn't on medication, but that is people's own choice. And a lot of times people come against people with mental health issues, and you try to explain it to them like I did the people I worked with. They had hired a new guy and I was training him. And he said he was ADHD and he wasn't on medication. And then people were very forthcoming with me because they know that they can trust me to tell me stuff, and that I don't just throw somebody's name out there. I talk about experiences with things that I've dealt with in the workplace so that you all can see the healthy ways to deal with things. Sometimes we don't want to go to the office on people because we're afraid, well, if I do, then this is going to make my job. And sometimes it does. Because in the workplace, we don't have people coming in trying to enforce, not like, I'm not talking about cops coming in and arresting people for saying stuff. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about people that hit people in the workplace, and that may be going on. I don't know. But we don't want to get to that point before we start. I mean, because something needs to be done in the workplace. I don't care if it's restaurant work. It can be anywhere. You have got negative people. And if somebody's going through depression, I understand. But most people going through depression are not the ones that are doing stuff. A lot of times, it is other people who know you're going through a situation. We need to better educate people about mental health. But we need to be compassionate. And a lot of people with mental disorders have compassion. I do. I'm one of them. I have a lot of compassion. Y'all, I got to turn my car on. But this is a good discussion. These are things where I feel like I'm blessed because God blessed me so much with being transparent. And with things that I've dealt with that a lot of places don't talk about. They don't talk about the work, and I know I got my air conditioner on, so hopefully y'all can hear me over top of this, but I've got to get some air in here because I'm burning up. But what I'm saying is that people need to have more compassion. If you're dealing with something, it is always good to seek your self-help. But when somebody comes into the workplace and they're dealing with depression, and you keep jumping them and hurting their feelings and saying negative things to them because they are dealing with depression. The way you talk to people can make or break them. Like I said, there's power in the tongue. It says this in the Bible. It says there's power in the tongue. So when we talk to people, we need to be compassionate and try to be nice. But I've noticed a lot of people at the last place I worked with had negative attitudes. I did too when I got talked to very hatefully, because I will only take somebody's mouth for so long. I'm not one of them people that's going to put up with negativity on the job. And I know and this is where you come into, come on y'all. If you have a job and you're dealing with mental health and you go to work every day and people are constantly dogging you, they're constantly being negative to you, and you're not doing anything for them to be negative. They just see something in you, and they're going to sit and be negative to you. That's not good. That's not good for somebody who's dealing with depression. That is not good. We have to learn to be compassionate, and I know it's hard to do because we live in a fleshly body, and people get used to talking to people any way they want to. But with a person who's dealing with mental health, they don't need that negativity, especially if they're depressed. They don't need that. They need positive reinforcement. You need to treat that person just like you would anybody else. There are people on the job that were very negative at the last place I worked. There were some good people. But there was very negative energy in that place. Nobody wanted to train anybody. They got mad at people if they didn't catch on as quick as they should. Those people got mad. Those people would get mad and they would complain about training me. Not everybody, but the main one that trained me the first 2 or 3 months, he did not very compassionate. He was very hateful, but was not a saved soul. He claimed to be atheist. Nothing against somebody who you can believe what you want to believe, but I believe in the holy spiritual gifts of God and the one Jesus Christ. That's what I believe. And I'm not saying anything negative about that, but he was negative. If you did not do exactly how he told you to do something and you found a different way to do it, it just was what it was. And he would try to train you the right way and how he did it. And that's okay to train people, but it's not okay to complain because you have to train people. And everybody in there would complain because they said, well, why should we train people? Because we're not getting any extra money to train this person. Well, honey, I'm not saying that they should not pay them extra money to train people. But what I am saying, this needs to change in the workplace. We need to make a difference Y'all leave me some comments in the comment section below. These are jobs that may be coming available. If it would be done, it would make a big change inside the workplace of wherever you worked. There needs to be people. And I don't know what you would call the position, and maybe there already is, but I don't think there is like there should be in all workplaces. There should be somebody who comes into the workplace that does training on healthy relationships, healing from past things. They need to have counselors on the job. They need people to have a class. They need to go through. And Ben's jobs want to have observations on people as to how quick they're catching on to something, as to whether they get a raise. Then maybe they need to have somebody similar who comes into the place and has a class or two teaching of healthy relationships and healthy ways to deal with situations and things, and play some games to where it can get in the mind. There are things that need to take place. This would be awesome because people are not showing positivity. People are being discriminated against because they have mental health issues. People are being discriminated against because they're not putting up with disrespect. We have got to take a step further. This is what I think, but I don't know that it will ever come to pass, but I wish it would. Because jobs are just not what they should be. People are not treating people. And I know we all live in a fleshly body, but it is not right when a new person is hired and and the people that are supposed to train you are constantly complaining because they have to train you. It is not your fault that the company does not pay them extra money to train people. How are you making that person feel that's new? You're making them feel like they're stupid, like they will never catch on. Or if they take a little bit longer to catch on, you're not willing to work with them. Have we not had kids in high school and younger grades that struggled with catching on to things? Come on, our brains all function different. Some people don't catch on to things the same as other people. This is what the workplace needs to enforce. They need to be willing to work with people. And the main reason why somebody will leave a job is because, and let me tell you something, these jobs that hire people every day, they always want to say it's because the person is lazy and they do not want to work. That is not always the case. I have worked in several factories in my life. A lot of rumors get spreaded around about the job when you're on jobs. The negative atmosphere inside of the workplace, I'm telling you, they need to have advocates, somebody. I don't know what the job title would be called or if there's ever such a thing. But they need to bring people into the job to see how are people treating people. If you're treating people bad, then you should not have a job. If you cannot get along with your coworkers and do your job and train people effectively, then maybe you should not have a job. Because how many people that are treating people with disrespect, think about it. How many people are they losing on that job that they are treating them like crap? This is where we have to learn to educate ourselves about healthy relationships, healthy workplace environments, And I was speaking to the Lord thinking, man, this would be awesome if somebody could come up with something like this. But it's out of the ordinary, isn't it? In all places when you go through orientation, they will tell you that they are all for healthy. But my thing is, they're hiding behind a fake facade because a lot of these people they're hiring are not treating people good, and they complain they can't keep workers. Well, if some place keeps hiring people over and over again, that's pretty much a red flag, and that's a lot of places, y'all. How did we go from having 100 employees? I mean, last place I worked, I'm glad they gave me a job, but I put up with a lot of negativity. And I know that sometimes I'm not the easiest to deal with either because we're not perfect. But if I said something out of the way, I always apologized. And some people would just come up to, and it's just, but I never said nothing until they just went off on me. I do not like for people to expect me to catch on to a job. 2 or 3 months is not enough to be able to learn a job. Some jobs require more than 3 months to learn how to do. There is not, it's one of those things that sometimes we have to think outside the box. And how is it fair for a person who deals with mental health to deal with that kind of scrutiny in the workplace? You know what I mean? Because they get mad because you react, but they don't look at themselves to see what they said and done to cause the reaction. And so it is what it is. Maybe people need to be evaluated with how good they get along with people, what positive energy they bring, instead of all this negativity. I can understand if you're battling a mental health issue. That is a totally different story. We're talking about people who just want to be rude to people because that's all they know. That's all they do. I was around people all day long I was around one person that everything came out of the man's mouth was negative. He was not willing. He did not want to train nobody. He was one of them people that worked better by himself because he just was not a people person. And lots of people would rather work by themselves because you don't have to worry about negative things said when you're working by yourself. But one thing I will say is in most jobs you will have to interact with people. You will have to interact with people. And you have to know how to get along. You need to know about healthy relationships. Because we want to have healthy patterns in the workplace. But when does this happen in workplaces? You tell me what workplace really supports positive energy. Because a lot of places are negative because people are understaffed. They're understaffed. And we have to know that sometimes people get aggravated. They may yell or say something out of the way because they're in a fast-paced environment. They're trying to get the product out the door. And the company has not got enough people. And you are doing 4 or 5 people's jobs. So we have to take this into account when we know that some people get upset. Not so much over you, but over the fact that they are stressed over their job because they're doing 4 or 5 people's jobs. And that company will not hire anybody, and if they do, it's not enough people on the line to support what needs to be done. Then that excess stress goes on to that worker. That makes or breaks a person when it comes to their attitude and how they're dealing with workplace environments when they are very stressed. So imagine how the person with a mental health care issue is dealing with it. But until the workplace sees these problems and addresses them, they're not going to keep employees working for them as long as they do this. This is what I'm saying. So that's why I spoke about compassion no matter where you go. But we all fall short of the glory of God, and sometimes we say things we are not. But it doesn't mean we should not apologize. But many of people in the workplace, if they see you're a nice person, they will try to walk all over you like dust in the wind, just like other people who's in relationships, family members, whatever. If they see that they can walk all over you, sometimes you have to speak up. It's kind of, sometimes it's a win or lose situation when it comes to some of these jobs, y'all. I mean, it really is, because it's just really not right the way people get done on these jobs. That's why I say you're a slave to the government. Everybody talks about slavery, and yes, I admit there was slavery, but one thing I will say, we're all, no matter what skin color you are, we're all slaves to the government, because we're slaving away on jobs that we don't even want to work just so we can earn $1 to pay our bills. And let's face it, a lot of us are out here doing that. Majority of us are. And a lot of us are artistic, and we want to get to the ability where we can make money off what God chose us to do, what God chose us to do, because we're chosen. We're chosen. And we want to do something besides working a 9-to-5 job. We want to do something more because our brains get bored. Our brains get bored doing the same mundane job every day. We really are trying to search out our purpose. We're trying to walk in our purpose and hoping that one day that we'll be able to do what God called us to do fully, making enough money to where we can make a living off of it and not have to work all these other dead-end jobs that just drive you crazy. You know what I mean? Not that I'm too good to flip a burger. I'm not saying that. I'm blessed to have an interview anywhere. And I need a job, and I'm willing to flip that burger. I'm willing to run that window. I'm willing to do what I got to do to earn money, regardless of what it pays, because when you're sitting at home with no money, you ain't got no money for nothing. And I'm humble enough to accept a job like that. How many people would be after making $20-some an hour? I could say, well, I could be the type of person to say, well, hey, I ain't flipping no burger for no money. I made $20-some, but I got to do what I got to do. Ultimately, that's not what I want to do the rest of my life. I want to do what God called me to do. That's why I'm busy working on my YouTube platform. So when I get a job, I got to do both. And maybe I may not be bringing you as much content. Are you still going to support me? Because there may be some days I may not be able to upload but 1 or 2 videos. You may see me in my work attire instead of seeing me in my lounge attire like you do right now. Are you still going to support me? Because you know I got to work. You know, if I get a job, I got to work. That means I'm not going to be able to put out as much content as what I've been doing right now because I don't have a job right now. But when I get a job, I'm going to have to put time into that job. Are you still going to be supporting me then? You know, that's what I'm saying. Because sometimes there may be days I won't be able to upload but 1 or 2 videos a day. It ain't going to be all the videos I'm uploading right now because I'm going to have a job. Ultimately, I want this to be my main job. But for now, I got to get a job to help because I got to have gas money or else I can't do nothing if I ain't got no money. You know. So who's really down to support me? You know. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I'm going to, you know, because when I had a job before, I was working 12-hour days. I was gone on the days I worked. I was off half the year. But when I worked on the days I worked, I was gone 15 hours a day. I lifted on all kinds of heavy stuff just so I could have a job. I've worked a lot of jobs, man, and a lot of people, a lot of my family members say, well, you can't keep quitting jobs. Well, what was I supposed to do? The doctor told me that if I didn't leave that job, I'd end up with chronic back issues unless there was a job there that was lighter lifting. So what was I supposed to do? What choice did I have? I didn't have a choice. And some of my family members want to tell me, well, you want to make sure wherever you go to work it's something you're going to like to do and something that ain't going to hurt, you know. Okay, well, when you're sitting at home with no money, are you going to take a $12 an hour job or was you going to take that $21.50 an hour job? God said it ain't all about the money you make. It has to do with whether you like what you do. Is it what God called you to do? And all of us have to take jobs. Sometimes we have to be humble enough to work these jobs even though we really don't want to work them. But we got to work somewhere if we want money. If we want gas in our car to go down the road. If we want food to eat. We got bills to pay. We got to work, right? And if what you're working on right now is not making you no money, then you got to do something. Because you got to have money. You know. So we have to be humble enough to accept whatever job comes our way if that's what it means. It don't mean you have to sell your body. Nobody's talking about that. I always got to throw in the 2 cents worth because some people, they'll sit here and they'll say, well, I'm going to go out here and sell. No, I'm not telling you to sell your body. No, I'm not telling you to go out here and be I'm not telling you to do that. That is not what I'm telling you to do. I'm not telling you to get on the gram and post your body parts. No, I'm not telling you to do that for money. No, that's not what I'm saying. But there's ways to make an honest living. But what I'm telling you is sometimes we have to flip a burger. Sometimes we have to take that job that's a lower paying job. Sometimes we may have to walk to the job because we don't have gas money to get there. Sometimes we got to do what we got to do. If there's a will, there's a way. God will help guide you through. Sometimes we have to go through a test, and God is not testing us. The devil tests us every day. Trials and tribulations, come on now. You got people out here right now that's got a job, and they're dealing with mental health issues, and they have to choose between their job or taking care of themselves. What kind of choice is that, y'all? These are battlefields of the mind, man. These are battlefields in our life and things we have to overcome. What's the right choice to do? Now, we're not talking about somebody that's been there for a year that qualifies for FMLA. We're talking about somebody who just started a job and they started having mental health care issues. What are they supposed to do? They could get short-term disability and be off for a few weeks to take care of their mental health. That could be a possibility. But a lot of places, you got to work so many months to be able to get short-term disability. I'm sure you do. What I'm saying is, though, you have to be at the company so long to be eligible for these benefits, right? What do you do if you just first start a job and you're dealing with mental health care issues? You got bills out here. Come on now, let's add all kinds of stuff in the mix, because this is where I was way 2-3 years ago. I had bills, I had a house payment, I had a car payment. What was you supposed to do? Choose between your mental health and keep dealing with the freaking job you had to go from nice to day every 3 months? Messing with you because you have bipolar type 1. Come on now. Come on, let's get real in the field. What would you do? In the comments section down below, what would you do? If you was in my shoes, what would you do? You got bills to pay, so you're stressing out over that. So you say, well, if I quit my job, I ain't got no money to pay my bills. You go through a mania episode and you up and quit the job because God told you, you thought God told you to quit the job, but he probably did, because that job wasn't meant for me. That job was causing my mania episode, me working nights to days. But what I'm saying is, though, come on, y'all. Come on, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the situations that we can be faced with in life. What do you do? What do you do? Because we're faced with many, 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 many different things in life. I gotta get this car moved, because I mean, what do we do? What do we do when we're faced with hard decisions? What do we do when our mind's messed up? What do we do? What do we do? We go to God. What do we do is, even if we don't think we need help, we go seek our self-help. But it's easier said than done when you're messed up in the mind. It's easier said than done. What do you do? What do you do when you have all these bills you have to pay and you're dealing in your mental health? Is seek your self-help, number one. But sometimes you have to be off work for so long to deal with your mental health issues. And say you were a new worker, you hadn't been there long enough or qualified for FMLA. You didn't qualify for short-term disability. But when you're not in your right mind, it's hard to make good decisions. What do you do? This is where people, this right here is what stumps a lot of people. This right here is the reason why a lot of people have filed bankruptcy in the world, because they dealt with something in their mental issues, and that's hard for them to keep jobs. They're not, come on now. We got to be real in the field. We got to be willing to talk about these things. Where's the compassion for the person who's dealing in their mental health, who's not doing so well in their mental health? Where's the compassion at? I didn't see nobody showing me compassion. My parents, but I was pushing them away at the time. And they were only trying to help me. But when you're messed up in the mind, you're messed up in the mind. It's not your fault. Why do people want to point the finger at them? It's their fault. They're not seeking their self-help. You don't know what's going through their mind. You don't know what they're in. You ain't no psychiatrist to be diagnosing anybody or to be judging someone. Who are you? Do you love Christ to have enough compassion for that one who's going through something? You don't know what they're battling. We are not to judge people with mental health. We are to be compassionate. And a lot of people in the workplace are not compassionate. What are we to do when we are faced with hard decisions? What are we to do? We seek the Lord, we know. But certain situations in our minds, we are not all there sometimes. There are people in the world who's not all there right now. They need somebody to be compassionate. I'm just telling you. These are things that I've had to battle, and it is truth. And I speak of it to educate people. But some people just want to remain people who don't want to understand anybody. You have got to be compassionate to people. But a lot of times people with mental health care issues, nobody understands what you're battling in your mind. That's why it's so important you speak in the Spirit and have the spiritual gifts of God and of a saved soul. Speak in the Spirit. But know when you need to seek help. And sometimes it's hard to do. But you can't, but people don't get that. Some people do, some people don't, but a lot of people are uneducated. But I'm not saying everybody is. So before somebody gets on my channel saying, well, not you're saying everybody's uneducated. No, honey, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying a lot of people are uneducated. I didn't say there wasn't anybody who's not educated. So before you get on my platform putting a negative comment, make sure you think before you speak. And by the way, I delete all negative comments and block you. I don't answer them because no response is my response. One thing over here on my platform, I don't put up with no negative comments. If I get one, I delete it, block them. We're positive vibes, positive people over here. I don't worry about how many views and on all that I get. I'm trying to do the Lord's will for my life and to speak to the lost, to guide them to Christ. I'm not God, don't claim to be one, and I speak God's truth. I only want positive people on my platform. And if you're dealing with depression, that's different. Because I know what it's like to deal with that. But I'm not putting up with negative comments on my comment section. And that's all I'm going to say about that, because we don't talk about negativity over here. We talk about ways to improve people's mindsets. I'm one of them people that I want to make an impact on the world. I want to make an impact in people's lives. I'm artistic. I got many abilities. But I don't serve people. I serve Christ. So the only person that needs to judge me is God himself. So I don't care about the negative. I don't worry about popular opinions. Everybody's got an opinion. Yeah, we know everybody's got a butthole. We all know everybody's got an opinion. And people's opinions of me, I don't worry about it. God, I see who I am. I know who I am. My identity's in Christ. It ain't in people. But yeah, that's what I do with negative comments. I don't even answer them. I delete them, block them. I don't get on here mentioning it. I don't fool with it. That's just what I do on my platform. I don't put up with negativity. Sometimes when it comes to negative people, no response is the best response. When it comes to social media, YouTube, algorithm, all that, they're all about spreading negativity, anything positive, I don't worry about it. It'll reach the people it needs to reach. I ain't about spreading negativity. I'm about spreading positivity. Positive vibes, positive vibes. It don't bother me to see somebody come up. I don't hate on that person. My time's coming. I got my own blessings. I don't need to be stressed. I don't need to be jealous and envious of somebody else. I got my own blessings. I don't worry about that. I'm all about helping other platforms besides just my own. I ain't selfish. But anyway, if there's anybody out there that's not been saved, I want to take this time to ask if you would ask Christ into your heart. And if you believe that Jesus died on the cross and that he arose from the tomb 3 days later, then you're saved. Then go find a non-religion church who speaks of the spiritual gifts of God and be baptized. So until next time, peace, love, and y'all be blessed.